it's a lie, because there's nothing, when he tries to sell a bill, he's always wrong. You can always go back and go, oh, he said this, because he wants to sell it. Once it gets passed, you have no choice.
Right.
So he has to say and do whatever it takes to
People
get it
need to
passed.
look at history, the history of government. You know, when Medicare started, it was it was promised that Medicare would be an option. Realize that Medicare was supposed to be an option, your first option, medical care option. They promised they would never make it mandatory. But what they did was they changed the Social Security Act so that if you didn't have Medicare, you could not get your Social Security checks. So Medicare was never optional, was never mandatory. But who doesn't want to get their Social Security? So they have to sign up for Medicare.
What president did that?
That was Johnson.
Okay,
Yeah,
Lyndon
that was
Johnson.
Lyndon
Oh, wow.
Johnson. Lyndon Johnson was also the guy who said, once we pass the Great Society, we'll have, he said this, we'll have those voting Democrat for 200 years.
He was also
He was
the
a
guy
bigot.
that
He was a bigot, an absolute bigot.
and he also took prayer out of public school.
That's right.
Which people might say, oh, well, that's great. We don't need government, prayer in our public school system. But ever since then, our society has gone down,
Oh, sure.
downhill.
I would go further than that. I would say we don't need a public school system. I think it's the worst thing that we ever did. I think we need education.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be handled in a different way.
Yeah. Once again, the private sector does the best with education
Sure,
too.
of course.
Okay. Well, so back to healthcare then. How to avoid it? I see three choices. We either have to sign up, we have to get other insurance, or we have to pay the penalty. Is there any other insurance that you recommend?
You know, there's really no way to avoid it. If you are an employer that if you work for an employer that has more than 50 employees, and they can continue to have private insurance, then you can be on that private insurance without going to an exchange or without being affected tremendously.
So the business has to have 50 employees or more.
Exactly.
And they have to have their own insurance.
They have to have their own insurance, and
Okay,
if you have 50 employees or
small-
left, or less, you can have your own insurance. In other words, but the cost of that insurance is going to go up precipitously, so that very few businesses are going to be able to afford the cost increases that go along with Obamacare. Just since the Obamacare taxes have gone into place, just since the threat of Obamacare has come in, insurance rates have gone up 14 to 15%. I mean, this was not supposed to happen according to Obama, but it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Nobody has seen a reduction in their insurance rates, and they will never see a reduction in their insurance rates.
Yep. You can't believe him, I mean, I hate to say that. I mean, I wouldn't have said that about Clinton. But you can't believe Obama, because nothing he tries to sell you ever comes to pass.
He lies. And I initially, you see President Obama with his wife and his children, and you say, oh, that's a very nice family.
Nice, wholesome
And you
family.
want to believe. I mean,
Yeah.
even, look, he's our president. He won election. I didn't like him, but I wanted to believe that at least his goals, at least his intent was good. I can no longer believe that, because he's a smart man. He can't be, there's no way he could be stupid enough to believe this will work.
Yeah, from the get-go, the reason I did not like him is because, well, and that's an understatement. Okay, love him, can't stand him. Okay, kind of a catch-22 there. But he was so disrespectful to President Bush. I mean, beyond politics.
Right.
He was complete. And I thought, if he can attack President Bush that way, what happens when people, citizens like me, oppose him? Well, we can see what he does with the Tea Party. And
well, it's amazing. I look at the contrast between President Bush and President Obama, and when President Bush would get criticized, he would say, "Well, it's their right to criticize me. Let it go off his back like water off a duck's back." He would never try to get back at the people who criticize him. Obama is like a 5-year-old. If you criticize him, he's going to take his ball and go home. I mean, or a 10-year-old. I mean, it's horrible.
He doesn't take his ball and go home.
He throws it at you.
Yeah, he throws it at you and then goes home.
Right. He doesn't go home.
If he'd go home,
I
that
wish
would
he'd
be
go
one
home.
thing.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Back to Chicago, which, as we know, is just a wonderful place to live with no crime and low taxes.
Well, I mean, even aside from that, I mean, when I'm saying that, I'm not even saying that sarcastically. I wish that if he would get criticized from, let's say, the Tea Party or people who believe in our Constitution, don't attack him. Just say, well, I know we have disagreements.
Right.
I'm your president, and I hope we can, try to come up with common ground. And he doesn't do that.
Well, this is the liberal point of view. You can't argue based upon facts, because there are no facts that can support them. So you argue based on emotion. You react based upon emotion.
Yeah, yeah. And and again, I know so many great liberals, and that's pretty much what they do. Limited information.
Right,
They kind of have the,
exactly.
you know, if they went to public school, yeah, we have to work on the environment and yeah, evolution, and you know, they have their belief system, and
Right.
and I don't mind that at all, but there is it's limited information. They're not getting the full information.
Oh, definitely,
so,
without a doubt.
yeah. Okay, so you're saying there's no way to avoid Obamacare?
You know, there's really no way. It's like saying, how do we avoid Medicare? Once it becomes federal law, you can't really avoid it. You're going to pay for it, you're going to be stuck with it, and the cost to the society as a whole is going to affect each and every one of us very intimately and overwhelmingly.
Okay. If I want to stay away from the government at all, and I don't want them to be involved in my privacy, I don't want them to know my email address, I don't want them to, you know where I go to church or whatever.
Get rid of your cell phone.
Yeah, get rid of my cell phone, I know, no kidding. But I mean, this is gonna just get it all out there, everything out there.
Right.
About my personal life.
Privacy is going to be a thing of the past.
Yeah.
And I mean, it already is
Yeah.
to some extent a thing of the past, but it's going to be a thing of the past.
Well,
The
yeah,
government's
well,
going to know everything
I can
about
go to the doctor if I have a problem and get fixed. Under this, I have a feeling if you go to the doctor and you're a Republican, you're gonna get in the back of the line
Well,
eventually. Maybe not
Remember
right away,
that
but
the
I think
government
eventually
has a
it's gonna-
right to look at your medical records. I don't have a right to look at your medical records. You don't have a right to look at mine. But the government has a right to look at your medical records. When they passed HIPAA, the Healthcare, Protection and Portability Act, the government had the right to look at your medical care records. Everybody else didn't, except for insurance companies and government. This is going to be a disaster when it comes to privacy. There's a reason the government is pushing electronic medical records. I believe in electronic medical records, but I never linked my records with the hospital or with the government. The government is going to require that you link your medical records to them.
Okay,
so they
it's
can
required?
look into it's becoming a requirement. In other words, the government is paying people, paying doctors, paying hospitals, giving incentives, money to them. In exchange for giving money to them, the government is going to is getting access to those medical records. If Epic is the most used computerized medical record in the country, I can go on Epic from one hospital and get access to patients' information at another hospital. They're
Yeah.
no longer separate.
Yeah.
So the government taps into that and
Okay.
has a right to for the purposes of auditing.
Oh,
You see,
yeah,
they have
right.
to make sure that you're in compliance with the law.
Yeah. Let's go one step further
Sure.
down this path. The chip. I really looked into it. I had a guest on that had found and discovered anyway the medical device chip, and then if you're now if you need one, okay, if you need one, but then on another page it implied to some extent that everybody would have them.
Yeah, I don't.
It was mixed up in different areas, but if your right hand is injured, they can put it on your forehead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're coming toward that. There's nothing in Obamacare that requires you to have some kind of a chip on you. I have a chip on my shoulder, but it's different. However, look, it's an extension. If you are going to be a wide open book, they will say, well, what happens if you get hurt in Wichita, Kansas? How are they going to know your medical record? It's better to carry your medical record on you. Why carry it on a flash drive? Why not carry it right on your body so they can't make any mistakes about your medical record? I mean, I don't doubt that that's coming. I think, it's not here yet.
Yeah, it's really obvious.
But I don't doubt that eventually it's coming, because we're looking at Orville. We're looking at 1984. Orville's 1984, but we're looking at it now. It's
Yeah.
a little bit late.
Yeah. Well, from my previous guest, what I understand is it's in different parts of the bill, the 2,000 plus pages. And all you have to do, the secretary's mentioned a lot, this as a secretary deems necessary, and all they have to do is line
Well,
it
maybe,
together.
I mean, I read the bill, I didn't see that part of
Oh,
it.
did you really?
I mean, it took me forever to read it, but I
Wow.
did
Well,
read
good
it.
for you.
I don't doubt that it's coming. I don't see it, and so far, I don't see that they have a legal basis to be able to force a person to have something implanted in them, but I never thought they had a legal basis until John Roberts kind of jumped ship. Justice Roberts,
yeah.
Justice Roberts, I never thought that they had a legal basis to try to force people to buy something.
Yeah.
So, I was wrong there, and I'm sure that I'm going to be proven wrong again, that the government will say, well, just like we have the right to tell you to wear seat belts and the right to tell you that you can't ride in the back of a pickup truck, we have the right to say that you've got to have this put in. And I don't doubt that it's coming.
Yeah. The power of the secretary on the bill, when you
Unbelievable.
read that, yeah, because it's everything the secretary wants as the secretary seems fit. The words that are used over
Right.
and over and over again.
Right, as the secretary sees fit, as the secretary determines necessary.
Yeah.
Basically, the secretary is the law passer. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
talking
We
about
have a new-
HHS deciding on regulations that then have the force of law. And we are supposed to be a representative republic, not a democracy, a representative republic. That's gone by the board years ago. But what's going to happen is the secretary is going to be able to decide on things that then become requirements.
Yeah, I would encourage people who support this bill, or even if they don't support it, you know, go and look it up and look at how many times the secretary's mentioned and how
Right.
much control she has. 'Cause
Oh, it's terrible, and
page after page.
page after page, and realize this, that the whole, and people don't realize it. They can look at my articles if they want to, not because I want people to look at my articles. I don't earn anything when they do. I mean, it's just because I want them to look at the citations and the references, and they can go read the references that are cited there. The bottom line is, why is medical care so expensive? We must understand it's not expensive because of the free market. It's expensive because of the government. The government made it expensive, so it would gain control. Remember what Lyndon Johnson said about Medicare. This is only the first step. This is only the first step.